What's up, everybody? This is the official introduction to the second part 2 of our episode with the Reverend James Herndon, right here live in Durham, in the Raleigh-Durham area, North Carolina. So I pray and I trust that you enjoyed this dialogue, this content, because it's from my heart to yours. And listen, I can't stress it enough. Let's love one another, be courteous to one another, because we need one another. I hope you enjoy part 2. All right, welcome back, Gospel Diaries. As you can see, we have changed the setting. For one, say hello, Gospel Diaries, to the one and only Mr. Julian Gent up there, and this is my stepfather right here, Mr. James. And so we're still here with Mr. James Herndon, Reverend James Herndon. You all look around here. Look how good it looks. This is Durham, right?
Yep.
Keep my body strong. And keep my hands strong. I don't want to do no wrong. When you done that for me, give me grace. Give me grace. Give me grace.
Practically every musician that was out at the time, to a degree. Naturally, I was not as advanced as they were, but in over time, my music became a combination of all those, And Louise Beavers, was that her name?
No, you're talking about Evelyn.
Evelyn was that musician at the time. Matter of fact, the first time I saw them, Evelyn was still playing for them. That's how far back it went.
Evelyn Hardy Starks.
Evelyn Starks, right.
Get us a group. That's what music I can't play, like the gospels, like they, I said, they're terrible on the piano. I can't play like that. She said, well, don't worry about that.
I said, the girl that was on the piano at the City Auditorium, Evelyn, we can get her.
They came to my mother and asked her would it be all right, because I was young and they were young. And so she said, well, give me a week or two to think about it. And she thought about it and told them yes. And so that's the way it started.
And I remember after Evelyn, they had Herbert Picard.
Oh, God.
Yes. I learned from him. The Davis sisters had Curtis Dublin.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Bradford played a lot for himself.
Now, what do you think about his playing? I'm sorry to interrupt. What do you think about Alex playing?
Alex was a good musician.
Really?
Yeah. The truth of the matter is, he didn't do a lot of playing for himself in live performances. He always had somebody else to do that.
And I'm saved from all doubt and from fear within.
Learned from Raymond Raspberry.
Raymond Raspberry.
This is what I'm saying. I learned from everybody out there. This is something that I encourage young folk to do today. Learn from. Instead of preferring one over another, learn something from everybody.
That's powerful. Let's go here. So since Pastor Shirley Caesar was the one that actually introduced or brought you to the Caravan. So how did she even, where were you playing it around in the community?
Well, like I said, I had a group here.
Right, okay.
Shirley Caesar was a solo artist. She'd always been a solo artist. She'd always been a solo. She had grown up singing solo, until she joined the Caravans. She had been solo all her life, But we often ran into each other on the same affairs. She would be on the same program with the group that I had, So we ran and we went to school together.
Wow.
We were in school together. We were in the same graduating class. You know, so we were thrown together every day.
Wow.
Yeah, you know. So you know, there was a lot we had in common. You know, because of that fact alone.
And you know, it's something to be recommendable because here you are, a country boy, a southern boy, and this urban group in the Midwest. You know, they have all of these different progressive pianists or musicians, you know, at their disposal. But here she reached back to her humble beginnings
Yeah.
and says, you know, that's something to be recommended.
Well,
That she had that faith in you to bring that sound.
it
you know?
was at the time.
Mhm.
However, you know, it just scared me to death.
Okay.
No, it really did.
Okay.
I had no idea what it would be like to be in that arena. I had seen it only from the outside.
Mhm.
I had no idea the requirements of being inside that arena. And, you know, back in those days, I was basically just a church musician, you know, just playing, not any particular style or structure, you know, imitating what I heard, you know, doing things like that. But I was not one who had ever even thought in terms of being professional as a musician.
Got the call. What were you doing? Like it was just out of the blue. Like walk us through that experience.
Yeah, well, I was living in New York at the time. I was working for a motion picture company, Allied Artists Pictures.
Wait, say that one more time. You was working for where?
A motion picture company.
Really? Okay.
Allied Artists Pictures.
Okay.
In New York. Yeah. And I don't know. Somehow it must have been there that she somehow got in touch with me, because at that time I had, you know, I had recently just moved to New York. I didn't even have my own phone. So she must have called me at the office at work. Talked to them, might have known, but well, she may, I don't know. But she did get the information. She called me here. And of course, I gladly said yes. But like I said, it was just so much more demanding than I ever dreamed it could be.
Right.
You know, I was used to just freelancing, just so to speak.
Right.
You know, you turn it loose, you just go on for yourself, do whatever you want to do. You know, and but I was not prepared for the strict discipline that kind of music required. You know.
Yeah, and then too, there had to have been a million and one things circulating in your head
Oh
because
goodness, yes.
you would have had to leave your job. You know, you would have to relocate, and we're
Yep.
talking 1959 in the hub of the civil rights movement. So I
Yep.
mean, it's just taking chances after chance. You know, so like, was those some of the worries that you had?
Oh yeah, all of that together. Yeah, you know, I can't tell you the scope of things that was going on in my head. It's frustrating because there were so many things you're trying to, you know, wade through at the same time.
Right.
Yeah. Feeling sad, low in spirit, feeling bad. He always comes to see about me. That's the time I wanna tell everybody I know he's mine, all mine.
Oh yes.
No matter what you say, he's mine, all mine. No matter what you do, and I love him. That's why I call him mine.
So you got with the Caravans in 1959. So did you, when you joined the group, did you move immediately to Chicago?
Had to.
And where did you take
There
up
was no
residency?
choice. For a little while, I stayed with Shirley, you know, until I could get my own self squared away. Yeah.
So she had like a apartment or?
Yeah,
or room?
she had her own little apartment.
Wow.
Yeah.
And rent was probably what, about $5 a month?
Not in Chicago.
Oh, it was more?
Oh yeah.
in the
Wasn't quite
50s?
wasn't quite that
Generous.
no, wasn't quite that reasonable. It was much better than New York.
Really?
Oh yeah, New
What?
York's always been too
Oh,
expensive.
it costs a fee. Okay. Wow. So you came to Chicago. Now, while you was in Chicago, what church did you attend?
Uh, most of the time, I attended fellowship.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Reverend Clay Evans.
Mhm.
You remember who was in the music department at that time? You remember Frederick Young, or Walker, or Price? Or was Willie Webb there when he was there?
No, that was a little.
Stanley Keeble.
Stanley Keeble was
Oh.
everywhere. He was all over Chicago.
Okay.
You see Stanley anywhere, he'd show up out of clear blue. But I'm trying to remember. There was I think his name was Freddie something,
Freddie Price, Freddie Young. Yeah.
and he was a good musician.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember
Skills
him.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jesse Dixon had a good choir.
Oh, you talking about the Chicago Community Choir or the
No,
Thompson Community?
well, he did a lot with the Thompson Community Singers
Mm-hmm.
as far as record wise, but I mean he played for
Omega.
yeah, Omega Baptist
Reverend
Church.
Blair?
Yeah, that was a good choir.
Oh, wow.
And I also like to go to Bishop James Anderson's church.
You went to Redeeming?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Inez went there, didn't she?
I got so attached to hearing that man when he would pray.
Mm-hmm.
He'd always close by saying, "And then, Lord,
Uh-huh.
when this business of living is over." That stuck in my head like I don't know what.
Uh-huh.
And that's where the song came from.
Wow.
I could just close my eyes and hear him saying that over and over and over. And there was just something about the phrasing of it
Mm-hmm.
that just
Yeah,
stayed with me, yeah.
Wow.
To follow Jesus
Mm-hmm.
and this business of living. I don't think you've ever listened to that one.
That's on the same album.
Mm-mm.
No, okay.
This business of living, we did that on the Glory album.
Oh, John Daniels.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's the one that I told you, I used to hear Bishop Anderson
Uh-huh.
saying in his prayer. And that thing just stayed with me, and it still does. Every now and then it just pops into my spirit. In this business of living is over, then Jesus will carry me home to a place where I won't have to cry no more. Then Jesus will.
Oh, yes.
He'll carry me home. He'll carry.
Oh, yes.
He'll carry me home and let me sit down by his side. He'll tell me, hey,
Oh, yes.
you can rest now. You come a long way.
Uh-huh.
And I know you got to be tired.
Yes.
But I've sung my last song, and I pray my last prayer.
Uh-huh.
Then Jesus will, like he said he
Oh,
would.
yes.
He'll carry me home. When I fought a good fight, when I kept the faith, Jesus will
in my discography, I found that you did a session in 1959, and then roughly around 1962, your name appeared again. And I see that Eddie Williams actually recorded again with them after 1958.
Yeah, well, I told you that first year I was just overwhelmed. I couldn't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
For
so
real.
so I was gone for a year.
Where did you go back to North Carolina or New
No,
York? You stayed in
no,
Chicago?
I was stuck up there then, so I had to learn how to make it on my own.
Okay.
But I've always been been blessed when it came to job careers, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I did leave the Caravans in 1967, I believe it was, I went to work at a bank.
Wow. Were you still living in Chicago at that time?
Harris Trust and Savings Bank in Chicago, yeah. That's all we had.
Okay.
Two mics.
Two mics.
One for the lead, one for the background.
Okay.
We didn't have all of these different tracks and everything. We didn't have the luxury of letting the musicians go in and lay the tracks down and put all the music in place and everything. And then we just come along later and do whatever. We had to go in the studio with 12 songs, teach that to the musicians one by one, and record them one by one. That was an all-day.
Oh man, that's really tedious.
Oh yes.
Hmm.
You know, this is what I say. You know, people had no idea of how strenuous our lives were
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes. They only knew what they saw on stage, and they thought that was all the glamour and glitter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but there was a lot of stuff going on that we had to endure. You know, that I don't know if a lot of folk could have, especially nowadays. I don't think the most of the musicians we have nowadays, I don't know if they've been able to handle that.
Wow. So you were at the piano with a mic as well?
Yeah.
Really?
And you could, but you know what the beauty of it was? We could put 4 or 5 people around the mic and you could hear everybody. Nowadays, you can give everybody a mic and still some outweigh others.
Mm-hmm. Because they really a lot of the music is heavy inundated with the music.
Yeah, but you know, and then when you sing together and you thrown together like we were day in and day out, riding in the same car, sleeping in the same hotels, you know, going to the same programs, eating at the same restaurant, everything, you become more family than you do group.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so there's a certain blend that goes with just being together. Mm-hmm. To depend on each other, to blend with each other, to support each other, you know. Mm-hmm. And that's how it was possible for us to put 4 people around the mic and you could still hear everybody.
And when you first went into the studio, who were members of the Caravans? That first session that you remember?
First session I went into didn't turn out too well because I was still too new. I was not musically advanced as I should have been at that time. Because then it was just John Aaron, Inez, Cassetta, Tina, and Shirley.
Doris wasn't there? Dolores?
Not at that time. Really? Dolores, I think.
Maternity leave or something?
I think she was on maternity leave.
Touring days when you got back with the Caravans, and I think it was 1962.
61. I came back.
61, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 61.
Uh-huh.
What was the, so you all would leave Chicago and say you're heading West Coast. So you all had a lot of pit stops along the way.
We drive nonstop from Chicago to Los Angeles. Now, this is what I'm telling you. When you're thrown together like that, you develop a bond that doesn't just happen otherwise. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're thrown together every single day. You know, because even when we finished one program, we had to pack up and leave and go for the next program. These one-nighters. And we were thrown together all the time. We ate in our cars. We slept in our cars. Yeah.
Wow. So who did most of the driving?
All of us.
So did did you ever tour with John Aaron?
Oh, yeah.
Now, did she ever drive?
Oh, John Aaron could drive her socks off. She was one of the best drivers I ever knew.
Really?
Yeah. She taught me a lot about driving.
Really?
About highway driving, because I wasn't used to it.
She was a good navigator as well?
Oh, absolutely. She, she taught me how to take a map and go anywhere in this country I needed to go.
John Aaron.
John Aaron. She was excellent with that.
Let's pause a little bit and pay homage to John Aaron. Tell us a little bit about John Aaron.
John Aaron was, I guess, one of the most beautiful people you would ever want to know. Because John Aaron was the most outspoken, straightforward person, but she didn't mean it in a negative sense. That was just John Aaron. And once you got to know John Aaron, you got to love her for that. And she didn't bite her tongue. If something needed saying, she said it. Something needed doing, she did it. But underneath all of that was the most loving person you could ever imagine. She was just as sweet as she could be.
She led in his name.
Yeah. That? We have gathered in the name of Jesus. Yeah.
She was a secret weapon.
Yeah.
They didn't really use her a lot, but when they did,
she didn't like to lead.
Really?
Oh Lord! Whenever you got her to lead, we'd have to drag her into it. The best thing that we ever got her to do was that duet on "Remember Me" with Albertina. And she did a good job with that.
She did. Yes, she did.
She did it, but she just never thought of herself as a lead singer. She never bickered for that spot. She was content to be in the background and supportive, and she was very supportive.
Died pretty early, right?
She's pretty young.
Let's talk about her death.
She's 364.
Wow.
Because I remember 64, we did that gospel train. One of the few times we traveled by bus, because it was the Caravans, James Cleveland, Clouds of Joy, the Soul Stirrers, and the Swanee Quintet.
Wow.
Every time we would go to Augusta, we'd stop by to see John Aaron. And even in her latter years, when she was really suffering, you never heard her complain.
Did you go to her funeral?
Oh, yeah. Her funeral was in Chicago.
You remember what church it was at?
Fellowship?
Really?
Yeah, her funeral was in Chicago.
And did the Caravans sing?
No, the women couldn't sing. They were too broke up. They were too, they had known John Aaron for years, and they were just, John Aaron was more sister than singer. And her name was so unique. Her name was a combination of her father and mother.
Wow.
Her father was John. Her mother was Aaron. So she was named John Aaron.
Really, Baby Shirley actually recorded it in 1951, but it didn't have all the bells and the whistles and all of the...
That wasn't Shirley.
Right. Well, the Thelma Bumpers.
Thelma Bumpers. Yeah. You could listen to that record and tell that's an elderly voice. Shirley was only 12 or 13 in those days. That's not a child's voice. You can tell that.
Do you remember Thelma Bumpers?
Sure I do.
Talk about Thelma Bumpers.
Well, I didn't get to see her a lot because, like I said, Shirley, we traveled in different circles, but she was a marvelous musician. She could play and sing. She was blind, and I said Shirley had always done solo, but she did. There was a group.
Royarettes, right?
Yeah, there was a group situation there, but of course Shirley was a standout, because it's something about Shirley's unique voice that will stand out even when it's. As a matter of fact, long before, well, at least a year before, I joined the Caravans. When I would listen to Married on Weave, I could hear Shirley above everybody else because I knew Shirley's voice.
Wow. First, writer's credit. So you all were signed to Savoy. Did they even let you know about your publishing as a writer? Like, what information was given to you as a musician when you went into the studio or recorded with this on Savoy?
Oh, they give us a little token royalty, you wanted to call it, advance royalty for these songs. But you never heard a lot from them anymore about that. They'd send you a statement, that it said you sold 2 copies. And
They just don't make that up. Huh? How in the world you
I'm
understand?
serious.
I know.
I'm serious. Well, they could
You got me on this one now. Okay.
they could do that because they knew we had no way
No,
of tracking it.
no.
We had no way of tracking it, and they knew that. You know.
I'm listening.
And Herman Lubinsky, who owned Savoy at that time, he knew every trick in the book. Because after, I won't be back no more. I mean, and I mean, it just hit so much, got so popular.
Mhm.
Everybody in the country was singing it, and even some rock and roll singers recorded it. Matter of fact, Leon Russell in California did a double album, and he recorded it. So it made some terrific strides, accomplishments, and reached some tremendous places. We did it on live Hootenanny show when Jack Linkletter was the MC, and we did it at live Hootenanny performances in Forest Hills Park, where our audiences were mostly white.
You as a writer.
Oh yeah.
So that was
yeah.
probably good for you.
And then we had organizations like BMI, ASCAP, and all of those who were better at tracking that stuff than we were. We still wouldn't have known how to do it.
Yeah.
And we cannot to this day certify that any of that information was or was not correct, because like I said, we didn't have the capabilities.
All right, so before we move on with Savoy, I want to ask you this about Herman Lubinsky. Did you ever have a conversation with him? I know it's random, but did you ever have a conversation with Herman Lubinsky?
No.
Never. Okay. Did you ever see him before?
Yes, I saw him.
Did he have a cigar in his hand?
But I never had a conversation with Herman Lubinsky because he used to always confuse me with James Cleveland.
What?
Yeah, and if he was mad with James Cleveland, he'd curse me out on the phone.
Oh my God.
He would. And because I called and said, this is James Herndon. The boy, he just went off and never. I'm like, and of course, at the same time, he was getting older, and his mind was not as sharp as it had been, in those days. And by then, Fred Mendelssohn was handling most of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Standing on, like, when I was a child, it's certain cliches that you heard, but they really didn't have any volume to them because you didn't have the experience. But as a 39-year-old man, I can really say that we are really standing with sincerity on your shoulders. So I wanted to take a moment to tell you thank you so much for advocating and paving the way.
It's my hope that I would be able to inspire somebody.
And tell us about the experience.
Most of the time, we did 1 or 2 appearances there a year.
Really? And how long? So it was a week stretch? How was it?
7 long days.
Really?
Yes. And I say that because, like I said, people look at the glorious part of it, see how all the glitz and glamour,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't realize that place was a workhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went into the Apollo Theater, and most of the time it got to be us, James Cleveland, and somebody else, probably the Clouds, and somebody else, Clara Ward, or somebody else. Most of the time on Saturdays and Sundays, we'd have to do 4 and 5 performances. So you had just enough time to come off stage, change clothes, and go back.
And you all were staying somewhere relatively close.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they pay for you all's lounging accommodations, or did you all have to pay for that yourself?
No, we had dressing rooms in the back.
No, as far as, because if you all was there for a week, you had to stay somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was our responsibility.
And then you still had to take care of the responsibility at home.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
What we were doing, it made a whole lot of difference.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about songs like working until the day is done, do you remember recording the song?
Sure I do.
So how was the energy in the studio? Because I mean, it's not one time that I can listen to that song and not give some type of interjection like hallelujah or something, because it's powerful.
Yes, that was one of those songs that that would fire me up from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from the intro.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those songs that I knew and had known for years, and it had a deep-seated meaning to me.
Mm-hmm.
Still does,
Mm-hmm.
matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
To this day,
Mm-hmm.
it is just as powerful as it was then.
My
day is done. I'm gonna sing till the setting of the sun. I'll cease from sorrow. When it's all over, there won't be no tomorrow. No tomorrow. I wanna sing until my day is done. When I fight a good fight, I'll cease the sorrow. There won't be no tomorrow, no tomorrows. I'm gonna work until my day. Gospel music requires showmanship.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm stuck at the piano. I couldn't do that anyway, But I just didn't have that. I didn't have that desire to be a showman.
Mm-hmm.
If I couldn't bring it from within. And so when I looked for singers, that's what I wanted. Somebody who knew, first of all, who knew the Lord. I didn't want somebody who was just doing it to be doing it. You understand? I wanted somebody who had a relationship with God first, and that would make their relationship with me much easier. And so that's how I would do that. And I would ask, people if they want to see. Of course, like when I first started, the Herndon singers, Josephine and Dolores were in part of my group, because all of us were just tired of that everyday humdrum. That was rough. That was just tiring. It just works you to death. You don't have time to eat, sleep, do anything properly because you're always running somewhere. So, but and at the time we thought, well, it's all right to do something every once in a while. That's the way we felt. But we didn't want to be doing it every day. Every time you look up at somebody at my door saying, "Come on, let's go," you know. And I haven't had a chance to get into sleep. A lot of times you don't. A lot of times, by the time you leave from one place, you got to travel 400 or 500 miles to the next place. So you get there sometime during the day. Then you got to run to the cleaners and run to get something to eat and try to grab an hour or two. You don't get a whole lot of sleep that way, you know.
Now, when you're talking about Dolores Washington, I know that Dolores was on her way to really study classical and sing classical music. That's what we heard, and she talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, she studied music with Leonard Bernstein's sister. I didn't know a lot about it because that was before my time. But I do know that she did.
Now, coming from that style of music, that classical style of music that she came in with the group with, did someone ever work with her to try to get that gospel fiery sound?
Oh yeah. She had a beautiful voice, but it was just a matter of training her how to use it for gospel music as opposed to classical. Yeah. Because when she first joined, a lot of times Cassetta would sing along with her on her part. Because Cassetta had a wide range. People don't realize, but Cassetta had a wide range as she could sing. And if you listen to some of those records, I think one specifically comes to mind is "You Can't Beat God Giving."
Yes.
That's more Cassetta you hear up there in Dolores' register than it is Dolores, because at that time she just had not quite developed. But she turned into a powerful singer. Yeah. We can't pray right till you come. We can't pray right till you come. We sure can't pray unless you give us words to say. Oh, we can't pray right till you come. And it goes on throughout. Every time I get ready to make my way out to the house of God, I always take a moment of my time and ask the Lord to come along with me. Just in case you're wondering why, this is my reason. We can't have service till you come. We can't do nothing. We can't do nothing. We can't do nothing till you come. Till you come.
You know anything about I've been redeemed, bought with a price?
Oh yeah.
Can I hear a little bit of that?
I know that. I used to sing it when I had a choir. I'm redeemed.
Watch yourself now.
I've been bought with
Yes.
a price. Jesus changed my whole life. Yes, he has. If anybody asks you,
Oh, yes.
just who I am, tell them I am redeemed. Where there was hate, Yes, he has. If anybody ask you, just who I am.
Oh, yes.
Tell them I am redeemed.
Wow.
These sinuses got me clogged up here.
Okay, I pray that you enjoyed the part two, the second part of our presentation with Reverend James Herndon. And it has just really been a tremendous blessing to really sit and just delve into his gospel diary and just embrace him and love on him. And it's just, just priceless moments. And so our interview segments are quite done. So the next presentation that we do in regards to Reverend James Herndon, it'd be just a collaboration of songs that we did record at Sam Ash, I believe it was Gardner, North Carolina. So thanks so much for allowing us to use the facility. And if you would like to be a blessing to Gospel Diaries, please don't hesitate. The information is on the screen, because literally this is content from my heart to yours. And I work a 9 to 5, and I do everything just to bring to you some of the best dialogue, some of the best footage in gospel music. And remember, as I always say, love on someone, and you will, I promise you, you will change somebody's life. You never know, that smile that you wear just may be the ingredient that someone needs to put down that gun and say, I can live another day. So be kind and be courteous, and I'll see you all later. Bye.